So I'm very concerned about the housing crisis. It's one of the reasons I'm running for mayor, is because I believe we need a mayor that is going to make Berkeley diverse and equitable, and is going to prioritize affordable housing for people at all income levels. We are seeing lots of development in Berkeley, but that prosperity is not being shared with everyone. And I was just saying, one project that is about to open on Parker and Shattuck, the rent for a 3-bedroom apartment is $6,000 a month. And so when we're in a situation where people that grew up here, and where people that have worked in this community for years cannot afford to live here, something's wrong. And we need to change the direction to make sure that Berkeley remains an inclusive and equitable city, that everyone is welcome and everyone can live here and call this place home. That our diversity is part of what makes Berkeley such an amazing community, but that is at stake. And so as mayor, I will fight for every unit of affordable housing and every dollar of affordable housing, and make sure that we can create housing opportunities for people at all income levels, so we can keep Berkeley such a special, inclusive, diverse community. Our homeless crisis. We are seeing more people sleeping on our streets and our parks, underneath our freeways. I think this is a humanitarian crisis, and I think it's a really failure of our society that we've let this happen. And I think there's a lot that we can do as a community and regionally to effectively address homelessness in a thoughtful and a compassionate way. This is a regional and national problem. We need to work with other cities and with state and federal officials to develop regional solutions to address this crisis. And we need to invest in housing, transitional and permanent housing, to get people off the streets. Housing first works. If you can house somebody, they will stay housed and they will have a better life. Berkeley spends roughly $3 million in direct services on homelessness, but we've done very little in creating housing to get our homeless off our streets. We have well over 1,000 homeless people in our community. We have, in I think the winter months, which is when we have the most shelter beds available, 400 shelter beds. So there are hundreds and hundreds of people that are not getting housed, even during our coldest months. And I'm actually working with Boona right now to try to make sure that the city has in place a plan to increase shelter for our homeless during the upcoming winter months. We remember we had some extremely cold nights last winter. And so until we are able to house as many people as possible, we need to make sure we at least have a warm place for people to sleep out of the elements. And that's one thing we need to do now, but we also need to start investing in housing, and whether it's tiny homes, whether it's acquiring existing buildings to create transitional housing, or whether it's projects like the Berkeley Way development. It's a project that is on a city-owned parking lot on Berkeley Way, which will provide over 100 units of permanent housing for our homeless, as well as emergency shelter. And I had led the way on the city council for that project to move forward. That will make a difference. Mental health is another area where we need to increase our investment. We need more mobile crisis workers on our streets providing mental health services for people in need. Our police have now turned into mental health workers. 40% of the calls to our police department are related to mental health. And I think we can all agree that, A, that's not the police job, and it's better if somebody who's a trained clinician is able to respond to somebody who's in a crisis and help them get the treatment they need. That also frees up police time to address other public safety priorities. So that is one thing we can do, not only to make sure that we have more police on our streets walking the beat and addressing crime, whether it's the shootings in South Berkeley or the robberies or sexual assaults that are happening on your campus, but also making sure that people can get the help that they need. So I believe we need to develop a plan that focuses on housing, mental health services, jobs is another area where the city needs to invest in to help our homeless. And we also need to look at, in the short term, rather than having people camp out under the Gilman Freeway, which is a very dangerous, unsafe situation, is there a place where they can camp, a city-sanctioned encampment, where we can provide bathrooms and refuse pickup and intensive case management to get people connected to housing, or whether it's a navigation center like San Francisco's doing to provide a solution to get people off the streets and into housing. So I'm very committed to addressing homelessness. It's one of the main issues I hear from people in the community. But I'm running for mayor to make Berkeley work for everyone and to champion Berkeley values. I have been a lifelong advocate for progressive values, starting at a very, very young age, and my dad is here. He can tell you stories. At a very, very young age, I developed a social consciousness and a commitment that I need to do something to make a difference in this world and to address injustice in our society. And I got involved in the movement for farm workers' rights, and at the age of 9 years old, I helped lead an effort in my hometown of San Francisco to name a street after my hero, Cesar Chavez. And we succeeded in that effort, and that started a 20-year, lifelong commitment to political activism and fighting for social change. I've worked on issues around raising the minimum wage, housing affordability, environmental issues, the needs of children and youth, affordable housing, a wide range of progressive causes. I am a proud graduate of UC Berkeley, and when I came to UC Berkeley, I got involved in my community. I served as the City Affairs Director for the ASUC, UC Berkeley Student Government, and in that capacity, I not only fought to increase student housing close to campus, but also expand transportation options for faculty and students. And I served on a number of boards and commissions. The Housing Commission, where I led efforts to create new affordable housing in Berkeley. I chaired the Rent Stabilization Board, where I worked to strengthen tenant protections and increase assistance for displaced tenants. I served on the Zoning and Justice Board, where I voted for hundreds of units of new housing along transit corridors, and on the Planning Commission and on the Downtown Area Plan Advisory Committee, where I helped craft our downtown area plan. In 2008, I was elected to the council, becoming the first Latino and the youngest person ever elected to our council. And for the last 8 years, I have been an effective advocate for progressive change on the City Council. I've offered over 300 different policies on issues from supporting our small businesses, downtown revitalization, streamlining our permitting process, environmental issues, sustainability issues, affordable housing, tenants' rights, immigrants' rights, police accountability, minimum wage homelessness. I led efforts to develop a municipal minimum wage, and I'm committed to making our minimum wage a living wage. I worked to save our downtown Berkeley post office. I've worked to balance 8 city budgets during difficult economic times. I have a long track record of getting things done, building coalitions, and trying to make progress in our city. A record that is far more established than my opponent. I think that shows that I'm not just going to sit at a meeting and vote. I want to lead. I want to tackle the challenges that are facing our community and create an equitable future for our city. And so I'm excited to run for mayor, to bring my experience, to bring my love for Berkeley, and to move Berkeley into a new era. We are facing critical challenges from the housing crisis, our homeless crisis, crumbling infrastructure, the need to improve our sidewalks, our streets, our parks facilities. We need to improve the physical health of our city. We need to promote fiscal sustainability for our city to ensure that we have the resources in the long run to be able to provide quality services for our community. We need to increase our public safety resources. I'm concerned about the closure of Alta Bates Hospital, which is our only emergency room acute care hospital in Berkeley. I'm working with our Assembly member, Tony Thurman, and with the California Nurses Association to fight the closure of Alta Bates. And I want Berkeley to be a leader again in the area of fighting climate change and promoting sustainability and leading the way in addressing the challenges that cities are facing in the 21st century. People look to Berkeley throughout the world as a leader, as a trailblazer. And I want Berkeley to lead the way again. And so I've been endorsed by a number, I'm going to read from the literature just to refresh my memory, of elected officials, organizations, community leaders. 28 organizations have endorsed us. Hundreds of elected officials, community leaders have endorsed our candidacy. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for new leadership for Berkeley. Berkeley is at a crossroads, and now is the time for new leadership to move our city forward. And so I'm honored to have the support of Senator Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Party, the Sierra Club, the California Nurses Association, Alameda Labor Council, the list goes on and on and on. I'm honored to have their support. I'm honored to work with them. And I'd be honored to have your support to be your next mayor. I'm happy to answer your questions.